about the shampoo idea. So like, how do you know when to drop an idea and how do you know when to commit to an idea? What was the framework you're using?
The framework is that every idea is stupid. There's everyone, listen, you probably haven't had a corporate job yet in your
No, thank God.
Yes, thank God is right. Because there's this thing in corporate, I would say corporate America, but corporate world, and it's the brainstorming session. And they put everyone in a conference room and they go, we're going to brainstorm and try and come up with an idea for whatever it is. And he goes, but first, some ground rules for the brainstorming. Rule number one, there is no such thing as a bad idea. And I call bullshit. There's plenty of bad ideas. In fact, there's no such thing as a good idea. Every idea is bad. We just don't know why they're bad yet. And so the framework I approach, I assume all these ideas are ridiculous. I assume none of them are going to work. But here's the difference. The reason I start from that position is I don't want to commit the single worst thing you can do as an entrepreneur, which is fall in love with your idea. And you talk about the person who sees the dog throwing up and they go, I've got a great idea. And then what happens? Nothing. They go home and they go, this is a great idea. And they tell their partner and their partner goes, oh, that's brilliant. I'd buy that. And so they go, okay. And they begin working on a business plan and they write this 10-page business plan and they're dreaming about how amazing it's going to be. Just think about when we have this line of we can do cats too, and then giraffes. And, they've built this incredibly ornate business in their head, all based on this feeling that this must be a good idea. And you've got to nip that in the bud. And the way you nip it in the bud is you try, rather than dreaming how amazing this idea is, the first thing you think about, the only thing you think about is, how can I quickly, cheaply, and easily collide this idea with a real person and find out, is it in fact a good idea or a bad idea? How can I do some kind of hack that will allow me to quickly find out whether customers actually would want this or not? And almost always you build this quick, cheap, down and dirty, I don't mean minimal viable product, I mean unviable. Something you can quickly do, like turn the car around and mail a CD to yourself just to find out the basic premise of, can I actually use the US mail to send movies back and forth? Because if that had failed, well, great, on to the next one. And that's such a critical step. That's the framework that everyone has to have. It is not about having a good idea. Having ideas is easy and trivial. The important thing is, how clever can you be to come up with a quick and cheap and easy way to test it?
Why? Because I know you and me understand this, but I didn't understand this when I started my career. So I know that there's a lot of people listening right now that are probably right in the moment you've described. They've spent a year building up this thing in their bedroom. For anyone that can't see, he's got his head in his hands. They've spent a year in their bedroom building and working on this project.
C'est vrai, c'est un petit peu la problématique quand on est entrepreneur. On imagine tout dans sa tête et en fait, il y a une décorrélation entre ce qui se passe dans le marché et ce qui se passe dans notre tête. Et je sais pas si tu le sais, mais je suis en train de travailler sur une plateforme de mise en relation entre les freelances et des sociétés, des entreprises qui recrutent des prestataires de services. Et avant justement de commencer à créer, à développer le code, je suis en train de créer le MVP. Si tu es CTO, si tu es manager d'équipe, de dev, d'ingénieur, de chef de projet, en tout cas si tu travailles dans la tech et tu recrutes des consultants en prestation, enfin des consultants, donc si tu recrutes des personnes en prestation de service, j'aimerais beaucoup avoir ton avis sur quels seraient tes besoins justement pour recruter tes prestataires et comment une plateforme pourrait t'aider pour cela. Si tu es intéressé justement à m'aider à imaginer, à sortir de ma tête et de mon monde imaginaire et à passer à la réalité, je t'invite à prendre rendez-vous, à prendre rendez-vous quand tu es disponible pour qu'on puisse échanger et comprendre comment je peux aider les entreprises à recruter des freelances et comment je peux aider des freelances à trouver des missions rapidement. Le lien est en bas et on continue avec la vidéo.
Why is that a terrible idea?
It's such a waste of time because what happens is two things happen. One is this idea becomes so large and ornate and complicated in your head that you go, okay, Mark, I didn't need to get started. I need to raise $5 million because it's going to have to hire all these people to build this thing. And they're probably building absolutely the wrong thing. You can't just go ahead and base on what you think is going to happen. You've got to start from a position of real information. Listen, perhaps the cleanest way, since we have a bit of time, is to give you an example. I do a lot of work with university students.
Ok.
And I was meeting with a young woman who at the university, and she goes, okay, Mark, I've got this idea. What I want to do is peer-to-peer clothing sharing. In other words, I've got all this clothing in my closet that I never wear, or I don't wear very often. And I know my friends have a lot of clothing in their closet, and other friends have clothes in their closet. It would be great if we had this website and we could all post what we have and we could borrow each other's clothes. And I'm going, okay, that's interesting. What can I help you with? She goes, I'm trying to figure out, should I drop out of college to do this? How do I raise the money to hire a team to build this for me? And I went, whoa, slow down here. Okay, interesting idea. But let's figure out if we can come up with a quick and cheap and easy way to collide this idea with reality. And I said, do you have a piece of paper? She goes, yes, smartass. I'm a college student. I have a piece of paper. I go, great. All right, do you have a marker? She goes, I have a marker. Do you have a piece of tape? She goes, got a piece of tape. I go, all right, I want you to write on the piece of paper, would you like to borrow my clothes? Knock. And I want you to tape that to the outside of your dormitory room. And we're going to find out in the next 24 hours whether the very, very first principle behind your idea is real. Is anyone going to knock? Because if nobody knocks, well, you've learned something very important right there. This thing you think is so attractive might not be. But let's be optimistic. Let's assume a bunch of people knock. Great, you've learned something, but you're also going to learn the next thing, which is, are there problems with fit? Are there problems with style? Are the people who knock and look at your clothes actually going to want any of them? All right, let's be even more optimistic. Let's say they do find out ones they want to borrow. Well, you're going to find out the next piece. How do you feel when your favorite blouse comes back stained or torn? You're going to find out about the cost of doing dry cleaning. You're going to find out all of these things, and you're going to find out all of this with a piece of paper, a tape, and a marker. None of this raising money, dropping out of school, and doing any coding. You're going to do something very simple. Now, is this scalable? No. Is this repeatable? No. But that's fine. You're going to do it all with 3x5 cards or on a pad. You're going to do it manually, and you're going to start losing your mind. But when you finally get to the point where you are ready to go and maybe raise money or drop out of school, you're going to know what you're dropping out of school for. You're going to know what you're raising money for. You're going to be able to tell someone, here's my acquisition cost. Here's my lifetime value. Here's my CAC. You're going to know all of these metrics. You're going to know the complexity. You're going to have tried all these different things. You're going to know what demographic, and you found out all of that for nothing except for your time. That's what I mean by figure out some way to validation hack. And that is the key to being an entrepreneur. You have an idea, quickly, cheap and easy, test it, find out it's ridiculous, abandon it, go on to the next one.
It's funny because obviously I'm a Dragon on Dragon's Den, which is basically a show like Shark Tank where we see 100 pitches a year from entrepreneurs. And what I observe in some of those pitches, especially when they're a little bit early on and they haven't got product market fit quite yet, there hasn't been